Welcome back to the Magnolia Shine Podcast. I'm so glad to be back. Sorry we missed yesterday, but we're here on Tuesday, right here for our coverage. I'm Trellis Williams, right here with me, the one and only Blake Levine. Man, what's going on here? Man, look at this guy. What's going on?
First off, I know some people are going to be absolutely shocked at the beginning of this video. Like, where's the hat? Where's the mustache? And I lost everything this weekend. And obviously our picks were bad.
Yeah, no, they were pretty rough.
My TikTok picks weren't awful because sometimes I choose different games on TikTok. Although I did mess up. I did mess up one game that I said on the podcast that I did say on my TikTok. I actually had Lewisville on my TikTok, so I guess I kind of split that one. Yeah, I don't know why it beat my mind that day, but I had Lewisville, so I guess I was a couple better on TikTok. But anyways, at the end of the day, shout out to West Point. They took my mustache, they took my hair. I mean, they've destroyed the whole look. I am rebranding as Blake without a mustache.
That's right. West Point has completed the rebrand. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about that. West Point, this was the number 1 versus number 2 teams in the state of Mississippi, according to all the outlets. These were 2 undefeated teams. And man, West Point went to Tupelo and beat them. I just don't listen. And the thing is, I'm dealing with a lot of regrets. Okay, because here's the thing: I had picked against Tupelo the week before. Okay, and then Tupelo won, and I was like, you know what? I can't continue to just pick against Tupelo because they're proving me wrong. And you know what? Serves me right. West Point goes and gets it done. But congratulations to the Green Wave. But I think that, Blake, I want to ask you this. What is this more about? Is this more about West Point or is this more about Tupelo?
That's a tough question. First off, I'm going to say I think it's slightly more about what West Point did. West Point's just serious, right? I mean, we should have known better when they smacked up Starkville, and since then Starkville's been phenomenal, right? Like everyone was like, "Oh, well, Starkville's overrated." No, they weren't. No, that's just how good West Point is currently. And they put it to Starkville. They put it to Lewisville somewhat. I mean, Lewisville scored, but it was a low-scoring game. Knoxabe was their one really tough game. And now they go play Tupelo. The part that I do want to say is the lack of the quarterback for Tupelo, it showed for the first time. It showed a little bit in the Oxford game. It really showed in this game. And when you're playing West Point, who runs the ball over and over again, and Tupelo, who runs the ball, you're just not going to beat West Point at their own game that they've been doing for years.
That's the thing. Yeah.
And maybe Tupelo beats them if they play them later in the season. Obviously, that will not happen, so there's no point in even discussing that, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, there's 2 sides to that, which is West Point right now, at the moment, currently constructed, is the best team in Mississippi, and I actually move Ocean Springs up to 2. When it comes to Tupelo, even though I move Ocean Springs up, I'm not coming off that pick. Tupelo's going to win 7A because at some point they're going to get their quarterback back, I think, and they'll be able to throw the ball a little bit. And once they have the ability to put JJ and Bobo back in the backfield where they belong and then have a threat of throwing the ball, that offense is going to really take off. And it's going to help their defense.
Yeah, and I would agree with you to a point. I think Tupelo's still the favorite to win, but man, I think that what West Point did was exposed some vulnerabilities there. I think they did, but the thing is, West Point, I don't know if they really.
But you have to have the team that West Point has. But you have to have the team that West Point has to even do that, right? Oxford probably gave them a little bit of a blueprint the week before, which kind of probably helped. But you're going to have a roster that is capable of doing that, right? Because it's all good and dandy to have the game plan, but if your kids can't do it, then it doesn't matter.
That's true. And another thing, too, West Point was coming off of a bye week. I thought that would be a negative for West Point. I thought they wouldn't be as ready to play starting off because they had taken a week off. But they started off the game very well. They went up 13-0 in the game, and which really helped them win because Tupelo got right back in the game. But West Point was able to pull it out 28-21. So it was a very good football game. And I got to say, Blake, this is my thing with you with the mustache pick, man. I thought this would be a close game. I thought it'd be a close game, and I said that last week, but I thought Tupelo would win. I did not think that this was something that you'd bet your mustache on.
Yeah, but I did. And here we are.
Here we are. But moving forward though, Ocean Springs looks really good. If Tupelo does win the rest of their games, which very well could happen, and win the state championship in 7A, do we finish off the season with a non-7A team being listed as the number 1 team in the state of Mississippi? Because that's what we could be looking at here. If West Point goes undefeated and Tupelo wins the rest of their games, they had the head-to-head matchup and West Point won in Tupelo. I don't know how it could be any different.
Yeah, but these aren't the standings of the rankings. And
they are.
If Tupelo gets their quarterback back and they win every single 7A playoff game by double digits, and West Point struggles week in and week out in the playoffs and they just barely squeak by, I could look at myself and say, well, I thought Tupelo was a better team the final week of the season, and if they played on the field, this is who I would take. I have no fear in doing that. It does not matter to me, because again, it goes back to your argument about Florida State a few years back, which was they were undefeated, but they weren't the same team, and hence they weren't in the playoff. Now, obviously, West Point, I'm not putting them in that Florida State class, but I'm saying that there is a path for Tupelo to still be the number 1 team at the end of the season if both of those teams win out, because the way that you win out matters. And the part that hurts for West Point is I just don't know who in 5A is going to compete with them. I know somebody along the way is going to push them, right? I don't know the week it's going to be, but it happens every year. Somebody's going to push them to the brink. I just think West Point is going to win out, but it's going to depend on how it looks.
Yeah, but we saw Knoxabe gave West Point a big challenge. Okay, so Knoxabe gave West Point a big challenge. Lewisville nearly beat West Point. West Point beat them right at the end. I know that was the first week, different time, but that was different. So we have seen teams challenge West Point. I mean, Tupelo obviously challenged West Point. It was a very close game. West Point's doing a good job winning football games right now. And again, just to your point earlier, they hammered the mess out of Starkville. Starkville's looked great in every other game they've played. And we can go on to that now. Starkville and Brandon. Starkville walks into Bulldog Stadium and beats the Brandon Bulldogs. And I think this brings up another question, Blake. The same question I had on the last one. Is this more about Starkville or more about Brandon? Because now we're looking at a 2-3 Brandon squad, but a 4-1 Starkville team.
I'm concerned about Brandon. I'm really concerned. The vibes seem off. I'm not there every day. I can't talk about what's going on in a locker room. I can't tell you what's happening with the coaches. I can't. I can only see the product on the field, right? So that's all I could comment about. But there was something about last year's team, even though they lost in the championship in the years before, there were some good vibes. Like the vibes are just like, we're big Brandon, we got this nice, beautiful stadium. We're electric. Our fans are into it. And it just seems a little dead right now. It just doesn't seem like the vibes are completely there. And again, I'm not there every day. I can't explain it. Somebody else may be able to explain it, but it may be explained after the year where someone comes out and says, yeah, we were dealing with X, Y, and Z, and we just never could pull it together. So the vibes seem off. When it comes to Starkville, this is the team I expected preseason. When I told you they have one of the best quarterbacks in the state, and I'm so impressed with them. And I love their game, and I love everything that they're doing right now. Their defense is starting to come along, and that's been impressive. How their defense has gotten better for the most part. So Starkville's all of a sudden become a real contender in North 7A, and not just one that we talk about by name and history, but because of the play on the field.
And so Starkville beats Brandon 22-14 there. And then that brings us to Oxford and Grenada. Okay. Oxford is now showing that they are an actual legitimate contender. And I have to give that to them. And we're going to go through our top 5 teams overall in the state of Mississippi a little later on. But Oxford beats Grenada. And I think this is a lot more about Oxford than it is about Grenada. Because you're talking about now Oxford was hosting it, but they beat them 35-17. Grenada is still a top dog in 6A. Obviously, we talk about Picayune and obviously we could talk about Warren Central as well. Both of those teams are high contenders in 6A, but Grenada is the team to beat right now. Oxford's 7A, but they beat them handily. Beat them 35-17 there.
Yeah, that region, Oxford and Starkville are obviously the two best looking teams, and then you get the Madison and Clinton maybe in a Germantown, right below it. I don't think Grenada is the team to beat anymore. It's Picayune. Picayune is the team to beat now. I've now watched Grenada, mess around with some teams I thought they were way better with, and now they go and step up a little bit, and they get crushed in the second half. And that's just not going to do it. And I think Picayune would go up and play with Oxford, and they'd play down to the wire, and maybe Oxford wins, maybe Picayune wins. But I don't think that I would see a Picayune score of 35-17. So right now, I feel really good about Picayune. And Warren Central, they lost a one-score game to Madison. I feel a little bit better about them maybe coming out.
I can understand that for sure. But yeah, Grenada falls to 4-1. Oxford advances to 4-1. A little update on our picks, okay, from the games we've talked about. West Point, we were wrong on that one. Starkville, you got that one right. You got Starkville right. I had picked Brandon. Starkville won, so that is a point for you. Oxford, we both picked Oxford to win that game. Now, Louisville and Noxubee County. Now, this is one ended up being kind of a surprising one. Not that surprising. I mean, we knew it was going to be a good game, but we both had picked Knoxabe on this show. You mentioned earlier that you had a split pick on TikTok, but we both picked Knoxabe.
That's my fault. That's my fault.
But it was that tight of a contest. It was that tight of something that we didn't know. Either way, we didn't know. I was on last minute on my pick, but we were wrong on that. Louisville takes the win over Knoxabe, and both of those teams are good teams. Louisville had more to prove going into the game, though, because Knoxabe's 3A, and they look very good in 3A. I definitely think they're going to be a championship contender, probably in the championship game for 3A, Knoxabee County, just how well they have played. But Louisville had something to prove because we're looking at Kosciuszko, who's an up-and-coming 4A program, doing very, very well this season. Louisville had something to prove in this position, and they're able to get it done.
Yeah, I absolutely. I couldn't agree more that the Wildcats had way more to prove for this game. That's not saying that Knoxville didn't want to win the game. It's just saying that I thought Louisville had more to prove in the grand scheme of things. That was a true Louisville performance. That was impressive. That was what we thought coming into the year they were going to do week in and week out. And their defense was leaking the weeks before. And this was more on par with Tyrone Shorter and what he has there. And this win should propel them back to being the top of 4A with Kosciuszko, at least in the north. When it comes to the south, maybe not as much, because I still think Columbia is the best team I've seen so far in 4A. But I feel way better about Lewisville and their chances. I mean, that's what it happens week to week.
It does. And Lewisville wins 25-20 over Knoxabe. Huge win for them there. Now we're going to move to Picayune and Poplerville. I thought this was an interesting one too, Blake, because last week you said you were thinking Picayune was going to just smoke Poplerville. Poplerville goes up 21-7 over Picayune, and Picayune gets right back in it and gets the win. Picayune wins the ball game. But listen, I was very impressed with Poplerville because we know who Picayune is. We know Picayune's top team in 6A. Really, they're a top team in the state. They were running with Ocean Springs real well, Picayune was. High-scoring game there. But, Poplarville able to compete there, which is remarkable given that they're 4A playing against a top 6A program.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you ask the Poplarville fans, they think they won the game. They were showing up the film of one of the scores late, and he might have been in. He might have been in. Here's the thing. I hate to do it because I'm judging from a non-sideline cam. I didn't see it really fully. So does it look like the kid scored? Yeah, it does. But I don't know for sure. So I don't want to say that one way or the other. So there are people in Poplarville that think they have won that game. that if quote unquote ref correctly, they feel like they've won that game. And so they walk away thinking they've won the game, right? Like mentally. I know it doesn't say it on the standings or your record, but they feel like they did. So for Poplarville, again, it went back to the 4As, all of a sudden a jumbled up mess with 4 or 5 teams that can all win it. And I thought it was a collision course for Poplarville and Lewisville. And now I'm like, oh, there's 4 or 5 teams. I could all do this. For Picayune, that was a little disappointing. I thought they were going to win by 2 or 3 touchdowns. They did not. And you get the credit for Poplarville, and then you also get the slack that Picayune just did not. Falling down like that just should not happen, especially with 2 teams that, again, we talk about both run the ball. They should not be falling down like that.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. But Picayune wins the ball game, and listen, football's about winning the football game, just winning the game, and moving on to the next week. Picayune gets the job done. They have 1 loss to Ocean Springs, and so they're still looking pretty good there. We move into listen. This is the big MAIS game, number 1 versus number 2, and it did not disappoint. It was a very good ball game. Of course, MRA coming away with the win, 34-25 over Jackson Academy. Big statement game for MRA. Jackson Academy had the hype going into the season just with all the players that they've added. But here's the thing. Here's the problem that arises when you add a bunch of players is that, you got to work that chemistry. You got to get that work together. And JA's schedule had not been as tough as what MRA's faced thus far. MRA was more ready for the game, in my opinion. I picked JA to win this game. You picked MRA. You were correct in this one, in this pick. But MRA they were more ready. They got the job done.
I think you hit it on the nail. It was the team chemistry, I think, because when I look at it on paper, I think JA has a more talented roster, at least at the top level of their roster, right? I think MRA maybe has a little more depth, but for the most part, the top players, the top recruits, the high level stars and all that were on JA's side. I think their coaching staff is actually really good as well too. So it's not like, oh, they're gonna get out coached here by any wide margin. But at the end of the day, MRA has a collective of kids that have been playing with each other for a while, and that showed. Would I be surprised if JA beat them the second time? No, I actually wouldn't. I might even pick it. It just depends on when we get there, who's there, and how it's looking.
That's right.
But for this specific week, I felt really confident with MRA and just the cohesiveness, and their offense is just so good. People don't realize if you want to watch one of the best when you want to watch one of the best offenses in the state, MRA has that.
So MRA impressing with the win, 34-25 over JA. And what's tough about a game like this, especially how the MAIS is set up, is that it was a good statement game for MRA, but man, does it really matter at all? Goodness gracious. That's the big question.
I hate to say that, but I mean,
listen, I have MRA as the number 1 team in the MAIS now, so I give them respect. It matters in that way. I would list them at number 1 for sure, and they have that now. But man, like if they don't win at the end, if Jay beats them in a championship game, nobody's going to care at all. That's the tough part about it. That's the tough part about that. It's whoever wins the second time.
It is a little weird that MAIS teams in Jackson, the Jackson Metro, pretty much play each other twice a year.
Yeah.
No other states do you really see teams, consistently playing twice a year. You just don't see much. You don't see a lot of it. But in the private schools, obviously, you're going to see a lot of it.
Yeah, definitely. That's just kind of how it is.
You're starting to see it more in the MHSA too, because as you've done less teams in each class, the chances of you meeting a team in your district in the playoffs greatly improves.
Listen, in the second round, listen, it's a 50-50 shot. You're going to play a team from your region. Yeah.
Right. So I'm not saying this is going to happen this year, but this has happened in past years where, when Tupelo was on the other side with those teams, and 1 through 4 just beat 1 through 4 of the teams in the Northwest in 7A, and then they're just playing a bracket of their district for the Final Four.
Yeah. Yeah, because
where it's like Madison versus Starkville, Tupelo, Germantown in the second round, and it's like, well, it's just the district.
Yeah. Definitely. Now moving on to another one here, we've got Warren Central and Madison Central. Okay, this is an interesting one. This is one that we had a split decision on. I think this is the only one I got you on. I picked Madison to win this one. You picked Warren Central. Madison Central ends up with the win in this ball game, and I'm trying to remember the score here, but yeah,
I think it was 32-24.
32, yeah, that's right. 32-24 was the score of the game. Yep, Madison Central getting the win over Warren Central. They're able to take care of business at home. This is a big game, and it lived up to the expectation. But Madison able to get the win, and they really did need this one.
I was a little surprised with how high scoring it was. I thought this was going to be a low scoring game. I thought you had two teams that, from time to time struggle a little bit on offense, great defenses for both of those teams. I thought that was going to be in the teens, and here we are with one team scoring in the 30s and another scoring, in the mid-20s. And I guess that kind of makes me feel better about both teams' offenses in a way. For Warren Central's purposes, it was a must-play well, even though I thought they could win, and I picked them to win. For Madison, it was a must-play well, even though neither team it was a must-win, but it was a must-play well for both. And I thought both teams actually showed some good things. I actually felt very positive about both these teams coming out of this game.
Another interesting one that we had picked was Northwest Rankin and Brookhaven. And listen, we both picked Brookhaven to win that game. And now, listen, Brookhaven, it's a weird swing. They start off the season so well. They knock off Madison Central, which was just like a historic performance for them, a historic game for them, beating them in overtime at home. Now they've dropped 2 in a row. They lose to Macomb. And then now they go and they get beat by Northwest Rankin, who's been kind of struggling a little bit, but now Northwest Rankin wins at Brookhaven. What do you make of that, Blake?
I don't know what to make of any of it.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I thought Brookhaven was the, no doubt best 5A team in the South, and I don't know anymore. Maybe they read their press clippings. Maybe they were too worried about the Magnolia Shine podcast and shouted me out after the game. They gotta get their mind right. They gotta get more focused on these games because I know they played the game. They're better than Macomb on an average day. They need to win that game. I understand how you could lose to Northwest Rankin. I get it. But I think they're actually better than both of those teams, and yet they're 0-2 in the last 2 weeks. It's just, they get their mind right, they still have everything in front of them. Everything's in front of them if they get their mind right. They get back to what they did early in the season, how they beat Madison. They do all those things, they'll be just fine. But they can't let this spiral.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think they're still a very good team. I still think that they may be a front runner in the 5A South. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how they work it. But you get an opportunity to lose some games, and that kind of could teach you some stuff. I know the Macomb loss is just tough to even handle. That's a tough thing to swallow. Northwest Rankin, I mean, any other year you would think Northwest Rankin would beat Brookhaven. So that's not a shocker, except for the fact that they had beaten Madison Central, and Madison Central did well against Northwest Rankin.
Right, exactly, right. So if you do the A equals B, or B equals C, A equals, right, exactly. But Sally, that's just not how it works in high school football.
It doesn't. Actually, I would say it's not even sadly. That makes it fun. But we got Clinton and Petal. And now we both pick Clinton, and then Petal wins. What's going on, man? This is one of the this is another example of the A does not equal B plus C or whatever it is. I don't know what's going on, but I'm so excited. I'm excited about seeing this because Clinton and Petal play, and Petal wins. Petal's back in a conversation of being a competitive team in 7A, even though they just have it's a long shot for them at this point in time, but they still obviously have a good team because Clinton's a great team, as we've seen. So, I mean, what were your thoughts on this?
I thought Petal was going to be way better by the end of the season, and I guess it's just now. Right? Like, I've been saying that, right, on this podcast. I've been saying this week. I said, Petal's going to be one of those teams I don't want to play late. I don't want to play them late. I want someone else to knock them out. I don't want to play them late. Well, maybe, week 5, game 5, all of a sudden, this is where Petal hits that hits that gas pedal and right into district play post Clinton, and no, here we go. So I think Marcus Boyle's got them boys ready for district, and the way that Brandon's looking, Ocean Springs or Oak Grove looking a lot better, but Petal Oak Grove's always a nice fun game. Could Petal win that district? Could they do it? I think they could.
I mean, when you think about it, now you're in there with Oak Grove, you're in there with Brandon, Northwest Rankin.
Pearl. Yeah. Pearl's not doing great.
Pearl. Oh no, yeah.
Meridian's not gonna be a factor.
Oh man, this is no, it's wide open. It's Petal.
It's what, right?
It's Petal, Oak Grove, or Brandon. And I gotta say, I'm not fully off the Brandon train yet, because also let's just be clear. Brandon's lost 3 games. They lost to a top team in Alabama last week. That's a tough one. That's a top team. And that's a team that's like you're playing them just to see, kind of get a test for you. You lose to Tupelo by more points than you thought you would, and it was tough. You got beat pretty good at home. Not really a good look for you. Then they lose to Starkville by a touchdown, like 8 points, so basically a touchdown. I don't know. Brandon still's hanging around. They're still hanging around. And
so you're saying Brandon's still the favorite? You're saying Brandon's still the favorite in their district?
I still have Brandon winning the region. But the thing is, though, is that, that region just doesn't compare, in my opinion, to these other regions at this point. And I have them below a number of 7A teams. And so, but I still have them winning that region.
You think about the coach, D'Iberville and West Harrison are playing, and they're both 5-0 this week.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting, too. Yeah, listen, tune into the Magnolia Shine Podcast on Thursday. We're going to talk this week of football for week 6. Which will be very interesting as well. But, yeah, I still have Brandon winning that region, but I got Petal. I think I have Petal number 2. I think I have Petal over Oak Grove.
I don't know. Oak Grove's looked a lot better. The vibes are back. The vibes are back. The vibes are back in Oak Grove. And our buddies that watch the show that are big Oak Grove fans, shout out to them because the vibes are back.
Yeah, and listen, what happens at the end of the season is way more important. I mean, we talk about Ocean Springs right now. They're starting off the season really well this year, but last year they did not. They were losing almost all their games, and then they went on a big run to the semifinal. So, how they finished last year, they finished as like a top 5 team in the state of Mississippi almost. And as maybe not top 10 though. But which is great. But they started off not so good. So things can change very quickly. But Blake, end of this week, our picks. Oh man! So you went 4-6, and so you would think 4-6. Blake went 4-6. So this is the week that Trellis gets him.
It's my first losing week.
Well, I went 3-7. That's just awful. That's just awful. So I am now.
We have been doing actually pretty good. It's not one of those things. We've been doing really good.
Yeah, you've been doing fine. But hey, here's the thing though. We had that news on Terry and Callaway, which actually changed where we were. Okay, since the forfeit went, it actually made you 28-12 and made me 22-18 after that week.
Okay.
Well now you're 32-18.
Okay.
Now,
that's not bad.
Which is still pretty good. I'm 25-25, so I'm now straight. No,
you can't be 500. You're a smart man.
Oh man, you could say one could say you're smart, but hey, you're 25-25 on high school football games. That's just kind of tough. But anyway, you know what? That's where I am. So we'll have to see moving forward. Listen, this week I went conservative this week, Blake. I went conservative this week, and I went 3-7. So I got to just go bold again. At least I'll get 5-5.
Just be you, Trellis.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, that's what we'll have to do. So Blake, that brings us to our top 5 teams in the state of Mississippi based on our own opinion. Blake, who you got for number 5?
I got Picayune. I think Picayune's the 5th best team right now. I'm still very impressed with them. They are the best 6A team, so they're number 5 for me overall. Yes, that was a close game with Poplerville, but at the end of the day, whether the refs did it or didn't do it, which I don't blame refs, Picayune won the game. That's what it says in the record books, and I'm taking Picayune at 5.
I have Picayune at number 5 as well. I had, Picayune was the team going into the season that I had as the favorite to win 6A. I will say this, though. This was a tough choice. I had between Picayune and Oxford. Oxford does not make my top 5, but those were the two teams that I had against each other because I think if those two teams played, I think it'd be a really good game. But I got Picayune at number 5 as well.
Yeah, at number 4, this is going to sound kind of funny. Can I pick a private school?
Yeah, man. Oh, you're throwing a private school in there. All right.
I think MRA is one of the top 5 teams in the state, regardless of classification. Right. I think MRA is serious. I think MRA is the 4th best team in the state right now.
Hey, look. Oh, I got Starkville at number 4. Now that Starkville has gotten more wins, and now their West Point loss doesn't look as bad as it did at the time. 48-15 is pretty bad. I mean, you got stomped, But the thing is that over time, they've over and over again have shown some good football. And now beating Brandon on the road, it's impressive. And they held Brandon to 14 points. And this is with Tyson Robinson back. And so, Starkville looks good to me. And they have hopped into my top 5 because I didn't have them in my top 5 until after this week.
Yeah, I'd probably have them at 6, right behind Picayune. I think I could go back and forth with those. At number 3, in their current construction without a quarterback, Tupelo.
Wow.
In their current form. However, I think at the end of the year they could be number 1 again. But in their current form, they're number 3.
Okay, well, all right. I think I have your number 2 team at number 3, and that's Ocean Springs. I got Ocean Springs there.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, I can't put Ocean Springs over Tupelo yet. I think we might be looking at a Tupelo and Ocean Springs championship game. I think we might be looking at that.
It'd be great.
It'd be
the real North versus the real South. I mean, that's North versus South for real.
Yeah, that's probably like a 5-hour difference between those two places. So
it's
you're
a long way.
It's a long way between. I mean, yeah, it could even be longer than that. But yeah, it's a long way between those two places. But I think that'd be a good championship game. And if that's the case, I think Ocean Springs has a chance to. I think Ocean Springs. Here's my thing, man. I have a tough time with West Point going 14-0 and Tupelo winning out and putting Tupelo over West Point. I don't know. I understand that Tupelo's road to a championship would be harder than West Point's road to a championship. 100% agree with that. I just have a tough time with that. If Ocean Springs goes 14-0, they're the number 1 team in the state of Mississippi, even though they've never played West Point. Because a 14-0 7A team is over a 14-0 5A team. But man, a 14-0 5A team that beats the 13-1 7A team, I'm sorry. Maybe I just head-to-head matters to me if that's what it comes down to.
Who's ranked higher, Arizona State or Mississippi State? They're both 4-1.
Yeah, Arizona State is. That's an interesting point. But here's the thing.
Remember, that's a collection of a lot of people's votes, right? Like that's not just you and I making a list because we wanted to make a list on our couch. That's a collection of a bunch of voters that did that. I'm just letting you know.
But to be fair, if Mississippi State would have won this last week, they'd have been ranked higher than Arizona State.
Of course, yeah, but they're not. But my point being is that it's not the head-to-head matters at the time, right? Which is we both have West Point number 1. The head-to-head matters that week for the rankings. West Point is the number 1 team. No doubt. Anyone that says otherwise is just not watching the high school football season this year. However, there's a lot of games to be played. West Point's played 14. They have 10 more games left. To say that just because they went undefeated that they automatically become number 1, well, no, I need to watch the games and how the games happen. Because, again, it's a season-long resume.
Listen, I understand, man, but if you win every game, that's all the resume you need. I think here's my thing, man. If they lose one game, and they could win the 5A state championship, but if they lose one game, they are not going to be the number 1 team in the state, in my opinion. If West Point loses one game, they can't be the number 1 team in the state. But if they go undefeated,
but this isn't like Starkville and West Point, right? Where West Point beat them by a margin that they can now pass them with the same record. Right. Like that was, but you're telling me West Point beats Tupelo, and Tupelo has their quarterback back late in the season, and they look dang near unstoppable. Well, then I'm going to judge it off what I see.
Yeah, I just think that there's no chance that West Point keeps the number one ranking under that logic, though, because they don't have a chance of proving it again when they actually play 5A teams.
Sure they do. If they run through the 5A playoffs and they win every game by double digits, and Tupelo struggles their way to this championship, I'm putting West Point number one.
Okay. Well,
my point being is that I just have to see how the games are played. So I'm not just going to flat out say, oh, if this is the record of both teams, that's what it is. Because, like I said, let's say West Point plays Cleveland in the playoffs and they have to win in overtime at home. Meanwhile, Tupelo beat Starkville by 3 touchdowns, and then they beat Madison by 3 touchdowns, and they beat Oxford for a second time, and they beat them by 3 touchdowns. Well, then we're having a different discussion.
We are, yeah, and obviously I'd be impressed with Tupelo. I'm just saying that I think that for me, I would just have a tough time bouncing to number one. But if West Point loses a single game, they're no longer even in the conversation because they're 5A. That's what it comes down to me. But the thing is, man, you go undefeated and then you beat the 7A schools. You go and you hammer Starkville and you beat Tupelo on the road. When is there ever a time you could be number one? But what you're saying is that if they win by enough margins, I understand that. But back to our list, number 2.
Yeah. I mean, Ocean Springs, and then I have West Point.
And I have Tupelo at number 2 and West Point at number 1. And so our lists are very similar, but you have MRA up there. I had MRA kind of right on the outside of my top 5. And I may should have put them in there because, listen, what else can they do? Now, they have lost a game. They've lost a game. It was to, team from Tennessee. Yeah, Ravenwood in Tennessee. And it was they barely lost, but they have lost a game. So like, there's that. Another game we did pick this game. We didn't go through this. And this went into our bad part of our record. It was Hartfield and Jackson Prep. We both picked Hartfield, and Jackson Prep won the game.
Yeah, I think I just made a mistake because of all the kids from Hartfield that were out, and I wasn't close. Yeah, but it was more than that. Like, they had other kids too. So yeah, and I hate to like kind of give myself an out here because I don't, because I give Jackson Prep credit for winning the game and winning the game by a lot. But that was not the Hartfield Hawks. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
That was some players from the Hartfield Hawks.
But I do think still that Jackson Prep is showing, and you've talked about this before, great coaches staff, and they're developing these guys. And listen, if they're able to go into next year, they're able to add some more talent, keep developing these guys that they have, be right back in the conversation again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk a little college from this past week, just a little bit from the Mississippi teams before we get out of here for the Magnolia Shine Podcast. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also turn the notifications on and like and share. Also follow us on Facebook. We got a lot of good information on there. And Blake keeps pumping out that content. And listen, a lot of interesting stuff. If you're a Mississippi sports fan, you definitely want to follow that page. Just a lot of good stuff on there. And then check out our podcast. Keep tuning in. We have shows every Monday and Thursday. We weren't able to yesterday, but we're getting back here on the Tuesday. Talk a little college. Obviously, Ole Miss sitting pretty. They're number 4 in the nation now in the new AP poll that came out on Monday, and they beat LSU and they handled LSU. And listen, Ole Miss looking very good right now. Now, Blake, you said one thing that I kind of disagree with you. You said they're the favorites to win the SEC. I don't see Ole Miss winning the SEC. Why am I wrong on that?
No, I know. I said they are not the betting odds to win the SEC, but I think they could win the SEC.
Gotcha.
Right, but they're not the betting odds. And if I said that in the video, I misspoke. They have a great
you probably
chance
didn't.
To win it. Right. And if I did, I did. And I apologize. But no, they're not the betting odds, but they have a great chance to get to the conference game. And if they're in the conference game, they can win it. Here's the thing. Do I think they're number 4? It's close. Because I don't even think Oklahoma's 5. It was kind of crazy to watch that Ole Miss was the top-ranked SEC team. They still got a full season to go. They get Oklahoma, I think, without their quarterback. That's going to be really big for them because that all of a sudden would have been an interesting game. This is amazing. It's deserving, and it's rat poison, like I said. It has a little rat poison to it, which is, you don't want to peak too early. You don't want to talk too much right now, but it's good that they're going into their bye week after that win, because usually after a win like that, there's usually a letdown in the first half of their next game. Well, there's no chance for a letdown because they have a bye week, and everyone can kind of cool off and come back and reset. So I'm really impressed with that win. They were favored in that game. That's why I picked them. People acting like, well, LSU was ranked higher. Well, LSU was ranked higher, but they were not the favorites. The betting odds favorite said Ole Miss. My eyes said Ole Miss, and that's who I took.
Yeah. And so Ole Miss did very well. They won the game against LSU there at home, and so Ole Miss Rebels looking pretty good right now, 5-0. And then there was my Mississippi State Bulldogs, and man, listen, I was proud of the team. I was glad to see that we're now competitive in the SEC. Yeah. Now we're an SEC team. We're a real deal SEC team. Now, I'll tell you this, though. I do think that multiple things went in Tennessee's direction, particularly the injuries. And injuring your two top receivers is just rough to happen in the middle of the game. I'm surprised that the Bulldogs continued to fight and still could have won that game, still should have won that game. And coming down to the finish and losing in overtime, I mean, just gut-wrenching. Just a gut-wrenching defeat for Mississippi State. And now you have to go to Kyle Field next week. Oh, my goodness. It's just brutal. I mean, because if you were going in...
welcome to the conference. Welcome to the conference. Come on. They got a brutal schedule.
They do. But listen, if you're 5-0, though, going into that game against Texas A&M, you could be like, okay, look, you lose, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. That's one loss at Texas A&M. But you're 4-1 now. But oh well, it's all good. For Mississippi State, I would say that definitely, I think my 7-5 pick, it definitely looks like it could happen in my book.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Levy's still searching for his first conference win, right? I mean,
he is, but I think it's a very, listen,
he should get it this year. He should get it this year.
I'd be shocked unless these guys are hurt for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, Blake Shapen, the pick late, that was brutal. I mean, some of the stuff, I thought the defense kind of let up late a little bit, but obviously, the offense spotted them some points. I thought that PI call, Tennessee probably felt like they should have scored there. But with all those negative things I'm saying, I'm really impressed with how Mississippi State competed in that game. There's no such thing as a moral victory other than just, casual talk between you and I. Because at the end of the day, there's winners and then there's losers. But for Mississippi State, the fan base should take a step back. It's frustrating at the time. Take a step back and go, wow, that's so much better than what it's been. That's so much better. Like, that is so much more competitive.
Yeah. And listen, I've told you from the beginning of us doing this podcast that I think Jeff Lebby's a good coach. I'm on the Jeff Lebby bandwagon, and I'm more so now because I also think he's a good play caller too. Like, I'm watching this game, and that offense was working well. And another thing too, this is something that we disagree on, and I like Kamario Taylor, and I'm excited about him, and I hope he stays. Man, but I think Shapen's doing his job. I think he's doing what it takes.
Then why burn his red shirt?
Huh? Then why burn his red shirt? Burn his red shirt. I don't know. That's an interesting question to me. I mean, I got to say that's interesting to me. Right? But I mean, of course, Blake Shapen is injury prone. He's injury prone though. Yeah. And so if he gets hurt, you want to have a good quarterback, and you would have that in Kamario Taylor coming off the bench. But the thing is that I'm liking Blake Shapen more than I thought I did.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, he's impressed me a little bit more than I thought too, but I'm just not sold. I'm just not sold.
Yeah. Okay. What about the Southern Miss Golden Eagles though? How about that?
That's why you hired Charles Huff. I mean, that's it right there. Job. That's a game last year you got blown out in, and this year you returned the favor. So It's what you have Charles Huff for, week in and week out. They're a complete team. They're just more talented too. They're just a more talented football team than they've been, talent wise. Forget play calling, offense, defense. Just the players that are playing, the quarterback play is just so much better.
Yeah, and now you go from being 1-11 to being 2-0 in Sunbelt to begin the season. So that's great for USM, and I like to see the Golden Eagles winning. Jackson State goes ahead and beats Southern University, which is good. Jackson State takes care of business there.
They're just, again, we talk about, they're just the better team. They walk onto the field, and Southern is just all over the place, and Jackson is just such a complete team. And when you play a team that's just not put together, that's what happens. I mean, they could play that game 10 times, and I don't know how Southern wins that game ever. Like, in the current form of their team, the 2025, I just don't see how Southern can win that game. I just don't think they can put 4 quarters together the way that Jack State can put 4 quarters together. Sure, Southern might beat them a quarter, but it just they can't put 60 minutes.
Yeah, and then we see Alcorn, and they lose again, and Alcorn this is just a down year for them.
I don't know where their win's going to be. I mean, maybe Valley. I don't know, but Valley had to just cancel their game this weekend, so I don't even know.
You said what? You said Valley canceled?
Yeah, they were supposed to play in Atlanta against FAMU, and they just had to cancel the game in Atlanta. So all those people that bought tickets and flights and all that, they just canceled the game and moved it to November 29th because they screwed something up and the promoter messed something up, and now there's no game.
That's okay. That's not good.
Yeah, but you know what? Hey, remember, I say it on Facebook. I'm not allowed to comment too far on it. So, because when I say that there's always something going on, I'm a hater. But there's something always going on.
All right, folks, that's where we're going to end it. The Magnolia Shine Podcast today, and we'll be back. We'll be back to talk some more football. And listen, basketball's right around the corner. So in about a month, we're going to be heading into some basketball as well. Talking about some high school basketball. It's the Magnolia Shine Podcast. Blake Levine, the one and only. Mustacheless and all. Alongside myself, Trellis Williams. This is the Magnolia Shine Podcast. Continue to tune in. We appreciate you. We out.